Hey, everyone. I'm Becca, he's Nat, and this is Becca's Book Club Adventure.
And today, we're back with a full book recap, breakdown, and discussion about Mountains Made of Glass by Scarlett St. Clair, which Becca recommended in a previous episode.
Yes, I think that was maybe the first book teaser I did, something like episode 4. Go check that out if you don't want any spoilers. Speaking of which, how do you think my teaser held up after you read the book?
Pretty good. I think the only thing I wasn't expecting based upon your teaser was the level of spice in the book. Actually, I think this is another one of those things where like, was it spicy or was it just like straight up erotic?
It definitely towed a line there for a little bit.
But I wasn't. Otherwise, it was like very on brand for how you presented it. Very fairy tale retelling, almost like multiple fairy tale retellings in one. And I don't know, it was good. You did a good job. And yeah, we should talk about it.
Yes, so before we recap though, and talk about the story, we need to thank the sponsor of today's episode, Retail Therapy. If emotional stability comes in the shape of a package on your doorstep, we've got something for you. Retail Therapy is scientifically unproven, emotionally satisfying solution to life's nonsense. Whether you're grieving a fictional prince, coping with magical trauma, or just pretending that adding to cart counts as self-care, Retail Therapy always gets the job questionably done. It pairs beautifully with budget denial, tracking packages like they're long-lost lovers, and forgetting you even ordered it till it shows up on your door. Side effects may include closet overflow, unexplained credit card charges, an emotional need to get rid of everything in your household, and an algorithm that knows you better than you know yourself. Retail Therapy, because every moment of life is unprecedented, but coming home to a little treat on your front porch feels just right.
Amen. 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 So, Mountains Made of Glass. It's roughly 220 pages. Came out in 2023. And from everything that I could find, it seems like it gets a 3.5 rating consistently on like every single one of the different book apps.
This author is on record saying that this is a fairy tale retelling of Beauty and the Beast, using inspiration from all kinds of fairy tales, including Grimm Brothers and Hans Christian Andersen. So keep that in mind as we recap and discuss it. Speaking of which,
yeah, let's recap it. Okay, so Gisela lives in a small village named Elk, where she's an outcast. She's haunted by tragedy and survivor's guilt after losing her mother, father, and sister. Though she considers herself cursed, it's actually the village of Elk that's under a dark enchantment.
every so often, a new curse befalls the town and a villager is chosen to remove it, often resulting in grim consequences. When the village well dries up, it's Giselle's turn.
Her task? Kill the toad at the bottom of the damn well. She does, but the next morning, 5 furious elven princes appear, revealing that the toad was in fact their brother, who was also under a curse, and now he's dead.
In retribution, they send Gisela to live with their 7th brother, known only as the Beast, for 6 years. But the Beast isn't a monster. His name is Casimir, and he is stunningly and devastatingly handsome, emotionally volatile elven prince who offers Gisela a deal.
The deal is this, right? If Gisela can guess Casimir's true name in 7 days, she can go free. Spoiler alert, his true name is not Casimir. What he doesn't tell her is that if she speaks it with love, it will also break a curse that he is under.
The story unfolds in an eerie mythical rhythm, equal parts romantic tension, sexual escalation, and emotional growth. And damn, Do I love a riddle-based book?
Yes. Casimir, who has never been loved and doesn't even know what it is, seeks to learn what love actually is. Gisela, on the other hand, embarks on dangerous quests to discover his name and the truth of his past while struggling with her own understanding of love and how it is applicable in this whole new setting.
The two share an undeniable physical attraction and flirt with their feelings and bodies during various dates and encounters. Along the way, Gisela faced deadly fae, seductive selkies, treacherous forests, and her own conflicted heart.
She also learns of Casimir's curse. For being unable to love one of the daughters of the Glass Mountains, he is now doomed to forget his own true name and therefore fade into non existence, unless his true love learns and says his true name. So it's not only her freedom that's at stake any longer.
Eventually, she uncovers Casimir's true name and speaks it with love, breaking his curse. In return, she reveals her own true name to him, and he speaks it with the same love and devotion. The spell is broken, but the story doesn't end there.
No. Gisela returns to Elk and exacts a magical revenge on the village that tormented her for years, before returning to Casimir's side in the castle where they'll begin their strange, passionate, and powerful new life together.
And they lived happily ever after.
Indeed, they did. So, you liked this story enough to tease it for me.
Mhm.
But you only teased it for me. So I want to ask, what did you actually think?
I thought it was a really, fun and entertaining read, right? I was stuck at JFK, right? So this was a book that I was held captive already by my circumstances. But one of the things I appreciated about it, it's 220 pages, but there's like 10 illustrations in the book too. So like
Uh-huh.
it's a quick read. And I actually really liked the illustrations. I think they really helped play into that grim narrative, the fairy tale, like, thorns and roses vibe.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about the illustrations is I didn't get a stunningly and devastatingly handsome vibe off of the prince. He has like really lanky, stringy hair, and that turned me off. But obviously, that's an illustration and not the actual story. Do you remember what you rated the book? I think I asked you this in the teaser episode, but it was so long ago. I don't remember your answer.
Oh, I probably rated the book something like a 4 or 4.5.
4. And clearly, you'd recommend it.
Yes.
Cool, 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 cool. Um, do you remember your favorite part?
So one of the parts we didn't talk about in the recap is that Gisela uses her relationship with Casimir to learn a little bit more of what happened to her sister because she doesn't have a full closure with her sister. So like what she knows is her sister kind of ran off into the forest and everyone kind of assumed she was dead. And so one of the last moments of the book, Casimir takes her to see her sister, who is now a tree. And we kind of get this inkling that eventually she'll be able to get her sister back out of the tree. It was just taking a very long time for her sister to recover from whatever magical injury she had that the tree took her to recover her in. And so I thought that was a really sweet, wonderful moment where we get Casimir cares, Gisela gets to see her sister, and then we kind of get rid of this guilt that she's carrying around. And so that was one of my favorite parts.
I really liked that part too, because like in all of the original Beauty and the Beast novels, uh, the Beast being able to take Belle outside of his castle like isn't really a thing there, which is why he has his magic mirror. But then obviously when you get the Emma Watson uh, movie version, the Beast does get to transport her other places. And this reminded me of like kind of a throwback callback to that. Whereas in the movie, she goes and learns her mom's backstory, but here she gets her sister, and I thought that was probably the most creative nod to a fairy tale that the author did, and I really appreciated that as well.
I
Uh,
also loved the story starts with a fucking glossary. She's like, I know that not all of you know your fantasy characters,
Mhm.
so here they are. This is what they are.
Yes, I liked that. Um, because honestly, some of those words I didn't like. For okay, the Glass Mountains. I've never heard of the Glass Mountains in relation to fairy tales before. That was brand new for me. I think hmm, I think my favorite part of the entire story was how um, the author subverted the whole Prince Charming concept. He ended up being evil in the end, not a good guy, and it gave me all of the Shrek feels, like Shrek 2, and I really liked that, and I thought that was a fun, creative thing to do.
That Casimir wasn't Prince Charming, or the Prince Charming that was in the dungeon that Casimir was learning from.
Yeah, the second one. Yeah, he was supposed to be like the Prince Charming because the only things he knows about love or um, if you tell a woman that she's beautiful, she'll fall in love with you, and if you save her from danger, she falls in love with you. Like he's such a Chad.
Yes. Yes.
He's a douchey Chad. And then he tries to like uh, kill her or whatever at the end for his own. He's got to get back to his maiden, but like the maiden's not even going to fall in love with him. He just has to claim her before her father marries her off to somebody else. That's great. That's funny. Uh, and then the Selkie character, it very much like a typical mythical trope, like Loki. You know, the very typical trickster kind of fairy vibe. But going back to your glossary comment, I had never heard of a Selkie before.
Ah.
Uh, almost reminded me more of like a merman. I hadn't heard of this Selkie concept where Selkies are seals and they can transform into men and they have like a seal costume. They call it the seal skin, but in my mind, it's like they carry around a seal costume with them. And the only way they can turn back into a seal is if they put on their seal costume. Um, I thought that was really, really, really interesting. And I'm guessing that a Selkie is something a little bit more OG.
Yeah, so in
Yeah.
the Black Witch Chronicles that I've been reading, Selkies are depicted in there, but the way that that author chooses to depict them is that they're a disadvantaged group. They're not the tricksters. They're like the ones that are usually locked into servitude. And in fact, in the
Okay.
book, they're like locked into prostitution. So their seal skins are stolen from them so that they have to stay in the prostitution ring, essentially.
Oh, that's
And the
interesting.
goal is for them to get reunited with their seal skins and escape humanity.
Do you think on any level, did you have any feeling that the book was a little overloaded with fairy tale references or tropes?
Oh, for sure. It like
Okay, good.
the other one that was in there that I love hearing about them, but you rarely hear is brownies. And brownies, I feel like, are like if a hobbit was a troll, I
Uh-huh.
guess. Like a little short, they're always depicted as being like the people that run the house. Um, so like there was a lot of different characters that if you weren't familiar with fairy tale, like if you'd never read a fairy tale, I don't know how, that if you read this book, you'd be like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, because then you also had the magic mirror, the mirror on the wall from Snow White, which I actually thought that was a fantastic use of trope because um, I know you know this, but for anybody listening, in Snow White, uh, the evil stepmother, right, queen has a single mirror, right? Just like the original king in this story had a single magical mirror, and he was unable to decide on an heir between his seven sons. So he shattered his mirror into seven pieces and gave each son a piece of the mirror. And essentially said, whoever is able to reassemble my mirror can be the king. That's how this is all going to be decided. So every single one of the brothers has a sliver of magic mirror. And it seemed like from this story that what do you call the entity inside of the magic mirror? Because I've always just referred to that is the magic mirror, but like he's always there with Casimir, always there. So you have to believe that he's always there in every sliver or every shard or whatever. Anyways, I thought that was really funny. And this magic mirror really it gave me more of the Shrek vibes. He was funnier. Um, I like that trope. I thought the speak my true name Rumpelstiltskin trope.
Yes.
That one, I think that was the only thing in this entire thing like that felt a little forced. Like the curse could have been anything. And then do you I know I already admitted I've never heard of the Glass Mountains as like a fairy tale trope before. Had you?
No. I mean, is it one?
Allegedly, I mean, if you read the was it the foreword or the afterword or whatever, the author talks about it. Apparently, it's a thing.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea. But the only thing I can think of is what the actual what is the point of the Glass Mountains in the story?
That all of that is a wild thing, right? So she tricks him, right? So he tells her the like riddle to figure out his name, and she tricks him into telling him, I think it's seven, that there's seven letters, and that if she makes him happy, she'll get a new letter. So she's trying this whole time to get these letters from this man to like guess his name instead of like all the other dimwits that came before that just kept guessing names arbitrarily. And so while she's trying to guess names, she's also like off on a side quest to get out and not even guess his name. And that's where the Glass Mountain gets brought in, which I think is weird.
Yeah, like the Glass Mountains they seem to be in charge. This might be a dumb way to put it, but they seem to be in charge of the enchanted forest, like or something like that. And Gisela flies to the Glass Mountains to try to bargain with them to learn more about Casimir's true name. And the Glass Mountains are the ones that put the curse on Casimir.
Mm-hmm.
But they're a non-entity. Anybody could have put a curse on Casimir. There could have just been a wicked witch in the woods, which would have been a fairy tale trope. Mother Gothel, anybody, for example, Maleficent, you know. So I just don't understand the point of the Glass Mountains. It just seems so weird.
And the scene when she visits the Glass Mountains, I don't know what you envisioned, but what I envisioned is the crow drops her off at the top of like a McDonald's play place kind of situation. And she gets the whole spiel or whatever and ends up going down a slide and spits out at the end. And the crow picks her up and takes her home.
It was something like that. Yeah, it didn't make too much sense to me either. That's why I'm like, what was the point of this? Like, you could have still gotten on the bird and gone to like bargain with a witch or the evil queen. You know, I don't
Which is
know.
why I'm wondering if the Seven Mountains or the Glass Mountains have something to do with the rest of the book she writes in this format. Because I
I hope
just
so.
had started reading the one, it's like, it's something about a golden apple. So I'm sure it's the Snow White retelling.
I didn't realize that another one was out.
I think. I
Okay.
started reading, I think I read the first chapter, and I was like, wait, none of this aligns with the previous one, so I'm confused. But we'll see if it comes full circle.
It is really cool. She's gonna write. She's gonna write a book for each of the seven Elven Prince brothers, and each of them is going to be some type of fairy tale retelling. And I think that that's a really cool way to create like a world or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I'm very interested because you have so many fairy tales that you could pick from like the Grimm brothers or Hans Christian Andersen or whomever.
Mhm.
But not very many of them are known to the general population. So I'm very curious to see which one she chooses and how those stories go.
Right? Like if it wasn't made popular by Disney, then we probably don't know those stories quite as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, okay.
All right.
Here's my nit that I need to pick. I know I said this to you at some other point, but Scarlett St. Clair loves cock, loves it, and I'm not referencing just um, male anatomy. I'm referencing the literal word cock. Loves that word. There is no allusion to a man's length or his member or his arousal or his euphemism here. It is always very blatantly. And the other thing I noticed, um, Casimir and Gisela seem to go at it every time they're about to eat a meal. He calls her for brunch or dinner or to go on a picnic, and they look at their food and they move some stuff around the plate while they're having some small talk, and it is on. How
There's no
hungry is this
foreplay.
chick?
There's no foreplay.
None. And because of this, I began thinking that Scarlett St. Clair is a nom de plume of a dude. And I started Googling. No. She's a she. She's not a stupid, uneducated about love male. But I'm so hyper fixated on Casimir doesn't do like anything to cause Gisela to fall in love with him. He asks her if she's okay once and asks her if the sex was good for her once and gets her an apple after they do it once. There's zero emotional growth, there's no emotional bonding. It's almost as though we're conflating lust and love in this story, and that bothered me a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say it's a lovey-dovey story. And in fact, they get pretty heated and intimate in more of what I would consider more dominatrix style. Like the very first scene where they meet each other, right? She's whisked off to this palace. She goes to throw the axe that she has at him, and he fucking turns it into thorns so it goes through her hand and she drops it. And then he takes her to get bathed up, and he's like, well, I'm going to watch you. And the trolls throw rocks at her while she's getting bathed and cleaned up. So there's definitely a little bit more of that aggressive forwardness that I think the word cock made sense. If she had skirted around it, it would have been really fucking weird.
This is true. I guess there's just a little bit, there's something that doesn't, a little bit of cognitive dissonance in my mind on the idea of an elven prince or a fae or somebody being so innately magical that their presence causes others to go into heat, as it were. And my experience with women in general, and I know that when I say this is going to be one of those things where the rest of the internet is going to be like, well, he obviously doesn't know what he's doing, kind of a concept. But like, ladies like to take some time. They like to be um, invested in, right? With the actual act, emotionally, they want to be spoiled a little bit. And I'm not talking about taking somebody to Tiffany's. I was spoiling. I mean, like, for example, making her dinner or um,
A full conversation.
a full conversation. Yeah, those kinds of things. And so there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance I'm trying to get over with all of these different stories about how whoever the FMC is just ready to go. Anyways, but Gisela must have been really hungry in this 1 week of her life. Like, really
Well,
hungry.
it's the first time she hasn't had to run a whole farm by her fucking self.
That's true. It must have been really hard. Lose your mom, lose your dad, lose your sister, and yet none of the village is going to lend a hand. They just left her to her own
Yeah.
device. That's
They don't give a shit
rough.
about you.
That is rough. Oh, favorite part. I almost forgot about this. The very end of the story where she goes back to Elk and kills everybody.
Oh, classic Grimm Brothers. Super morbid.
Mm-hmm.
You're all gonna die.
I loved that. It was almost like an homage to the Grimm brothers, and I thought that was great. Really great. Did we talk about our least favorite parts?
We have not. I think I would probably put the glass mountain scene as my least favorite because I didn't know what was going on. I also thought the Selkie storyline was unnecessary.
I also thought that the Selkie was another one of those like one of those magical fairy tale tropes that was a little forced. Not necessarily the Selkie itself, but yeah, like its background story and the context and I liked the trickster
Yes.
angle, but the rest of it was a little forced. All right, so you rated this. You said like a 3,
I said like a 4, 4.5
like a
because
4.
it was such a quick read.
Pulling mine up real fast.
But a solid 2.
I rated this a solid 2. Yes. um, but here's the thing: I would still recommend it. I would still tell people to read it because it has everything you want in a fairy tale, and it's just a compressed timeline. Things are a little bit forced, but I would still tell people to read it, especially because I'm interested in the next 6 storylines that she's going to write at some point.
Yes. So what would be a 1 to you?
What would be a 1? I'm battling in my mind if I try to describe what a 1 is, or if I can reach into my brain and find an example book. I don't think I can find an example book, to be honest. I think a 1 is there's not really a story. I think when I rate books, overarchingly, I look at a lot of plot architecture. I look at gratuitous details, and I look at pacing. And that's how I rate books, but that's not how I would ever recommend a book.
That's fair, because those are 2 different things.
A story can be great, but it can be paced poorly, or it can have unnecessary tropes or something like that in there. And so I would rate it low, but I would still tell people to read it because the story is still a good story and it'll take you away from our world and give you an escape for a hot minute.
Which is essentially this book. The pacing's a little weird, but it's at least fast weird, so I'll take it.
This is the first fairy tale retelling that she's done. Not the first book she's written, but I think she wrote that it was the first retelling that she's done. So I'm also usually willing to forgive authors when it's their first shot at something, especially when the story is good. If the story is good, but then the pacing or the archetypes and tropes and stuff are a little off, it's like, let's try again. Let's go round 2 and see if it gets better.
See, my rating for books is just highly emotional. So a 1 is a solid DNF. I closed it before I made it halfway through it. And like excellent books are DNFs for me. So like The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, great literary book, wonderful story to tell. I couldn't read it at all. It was too much for me, so I didn't finish it. So that's a 1 in my book. A 2 is I finished it begrudgingly and I regret spending time on it. So a recent 2 for me is The Red Queen. I wanted to like that story and I hated every minute of listening to it. And I almost didn't finish it, but then I sucked it up and finished it because it was an audiobook and all I had to do was keep walking. And a 3 is I legitimately enjoyed the book, and then it just gets better from there.
I would agree with that. If I do not finish a book, I don't even give it a 1. That is I'm not even reading this or something.
I mean, you probably shouldn't rate books that you don't finish because you
Yeah.
didn't finish them, but also
To me, that's
they're
sort of
hard
like when
books.
you go on Amazon and you're like, "Oh, I want to look at the reviews for this TV, and people's reviews are like 1 out of 5 stars. The box was damaged in delivery. Yeah, but how was the TV, dude?
Right? Or they're 5 out of 5 stars. Delivery was fast. I don't
Customer
care.
service was excellent.
I don't care. Does it work?
I don't care. It's Amazon. Of course, it was fast delivery. Do you have Amazon Prime? Okay,
Not when you live in the middle of nowhere.
that's true. I'm going to be giving up Amazon Prime here at the end of the year before my next renewal date. I think I'm checking out of that.
Yep. We lost it in February and no regrets.
Yeah, I still have a gift card that I got from rewards points from work. So I got to go through that and then be like, okay, I know that I could still use the gift card without Amazon Prime because technically you still have an Amazon account, but whatever. I think
Time to wrap it up.
I think so. I mean, we talked a lot about a very short book.
A very short book. And we've already kind of covered that one of our favorite parts is that there's going to be more retellings. So there's going to be one for each of the elven princes. And I think it'll be cool to see which fairy tale she uses as inspiration for those retelling and just how much fantasy history she can shove into these 7 novels, as she already did a lot in this first one.
Yes. Are there any fairy tale retellings you're hoping for? Given, especially in the context of, so many of the fairy tales are always about a girl. And I know that like this one was, but given that all of these stories are going to be about an elven prince, do you think all of these stories are going to put the elven prince as like the secondary character, a la Casimir? And in that vein, which fairy tales are you hoping that she retells?
I hope we have a few where the men make the main character, because I do think it's time for that. Of which Rumpelstiltskin would be an easy one to incorporate. Or Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Depends on what fairy tales we're going to consider classic versus new age.
I don't think Scarlett St. Clair gives a crap. I think she is going to put some type of weird Grimm Brothers spin on anything, even if it's new.
And I fucking love it.
I really, really hope that okay, so the brother turns into a toad and shoved into the village of Elk's well. I really hope that is some weird ass retelling of the princess and the toad.
Well, and I hope that that book ends with ends with destruction instead of a fairy tale ending, because I feel
Yeah.
like so often we get fairy tale endings, but that's not really how they work.
No, no, especially if you read all of the Grimm brothers, it's pretty tragic for the vast majority of people in those stories. I would love some type of Sleeping Beauty retelling. I think Snow White is an easy. She's going to do that one, and I'm guessing there's going to have to be a Rapunzel in there. I do not foresee a Cinderella though. I don't know how they're going to make that one happen, but this was good. This was a good different homage to Beauty and the Beast, especially because the vast majority of retellings that I've read with Beauty and the Beast, they're very true to the story because Belle is such an iconic girl. And
I was going to say true to the story or true to Disney's story?
true to the story. Well, not the Grimm brothers story, but like the actual French, the original French tale. not necessarily Disney. There is a lot of Disney, but I have a book in the basement called Belle. I think it's called Belle. I'll bring that to you. It's very short. I bought it for your sister who didn't care. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for us. And I think that's going to do it for Mountains Made of Glass. And you all know what we think, so you should let us know what you think. You can leave us a comment or a review. You can email us at bookclubbybecca@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Instagram. We are at Becca's Book Club Adventure, all one word, all lowercase. And if we get a message from you, we might throw you into the next episode.
Speaking of which, next time on Becca's Book Club Adventure, we'll finally be getting back into Crescent City, the first 24 chapters of House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas.
After how much we loved that first book, I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm interested if she can keep, to see if she can keep up the momentum. For sure. So, until next time, do your best to combine your book therapy with your retail therapy. That's an A+ strategy, I'm here to tell you. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.
See ya.